You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. Good morning to you on this Tuesday. Governor Ron DeSantis speaking now at the FDLE Orlando Operations Center, answering some questions right now. Let's go ahead and listen in as he continues to talk. This most recent question about DOJ audits, which we know have been going on in Orange County and a number of other places as well around the state. He's also talked about a number of other topics. We'll get you caught up on that in just a minute, but I do want to go ahead and listen in live as he continues to speak.
But your personal home, we really believe should not be subject to tax. It's an unrealized gain, and I'm just one that's like, if you tax me at point of sale, like I buy a car and I pay a sales tax on it. But like for me to then just, pay a tax on the value every now, cars usually when you drive them off the lot go down. Now during COVID, the cars actually went up in value. You'd buy a car, there was such a shortage that you could drive it off the lot and then you could even flip it for $5,000-$10,000 profit because there was such a rush to buy vehicles. But that's our vision. So. And of course, so what do people say? Oh, that can't be done. You can't do that. And my question is why can't it be done? Look, the first place we went to with these audits was Broward County, Florida. They got 1.9 million people. They've had no net population growth over the last 5 years. Their budget's increased 60%. So the question is okay, why is it increased 60%? That's the whole reason that we're doing the DOJ, and we're also doing it on state agencies and our state universities. And we're looking at a whole host of things, not just spending. We're also looking at some policies of universities, and we're looking at how certain things are done in practice. Because, you have the law on the books, which in Florida, we were the first state to eliminate DEI from our public universities, and we did that years ago. But are you repackaging that under another name? Is that being smuggled into lower levels of university? So we're looking at all that stuff, and we're looking at ways state agencies can do better. Although I do point out, if you look, the budget that we're under right now in Florida is spending less than last year's budget, and last year's budget spent less than the year before. I don't think there's many places that are actually reducing spending while still doing major things like teacher salary increases, moving Florida forward. I mean, our I-4 stuff we're doing has already made a big impact. We do a lot more there, billions, and we're proud of doing that. But we're doing it on a budget. But yet even, so I could say, since I've been governor, we've retired almost half of the state's taxpayer-supported debt for all its history. We're the second lowest per capita spending in the country. New York has 3 million, 4 million fewer residents. Their budget's twice as much as ours. We don't need to be. No, you can always do better. So that's our view on that. But on the local governments, people are getting pinched by property taxes, and you're getting pinched to fund budgets that have greatly expanded. So the question is there room to be able to give you the property tax relief you want while pulling back some of the bloat that's happened over these last 4 or 5 years? And so the DOJ efforts are really, one, standing up for taxpayers, but two, letting people have the information about where their money's going when they're having to pay property tax every year. What is that going towards? And do you want to change that relationship you have with these local governments so that they can't keep picking your pocket, just for living in your own home? So that's what's good. That's it's not political or partisan. It's something that I think has a lot of interest across party lines, because it isn't like if you're one party or the other that you're happy that your property taxes have gone up. I don't think anybody's happy with that, especially when they haven't realized a gain. Like, it's one thing if you sell your house, you get a new one, and you have a different tax basis, maybe it's taxed more. People are just living in their home, and they're having to pay more taxes even when the millage rate isn't increased because the assessments. Oh, your property is worth $200,000, $300,000 more, $400,000 more. And it's like, man, and here's the thing, you will get assessed higher. I don't know how aggressive they are at assessing you lower when the market goes down. That's, I don't know. Like maybe some do. I know we've got some property appraisers who are probably pretty stand up around the state, but the reality is it's usually a one-way ratchet. So that's what we're leaning, that's what we're moving towards. Blaze is really doing a great job. And the fact of the matter is Orange County was not cooperative. He has the authority, and then the state also has additional authority with the most recent budget. So when you have people reading off a prepared script and not willing to answer questions, as a taxpayer, is that acceptable to you? No, of course not. So this is something that I think is important. I think compliance is obviously required under the law, and I expect to see that. But I think Blaze has been good. He's been very hard on Manatee County, which is a very red county. I mean, I'd have to look at the election results. I mean, when I was running, I think we won it by like 30 points. It is not a liberal county by any stretch. He's also looked at like places in the Panhandle and elsewhere. So it isn't just the blue dots like Orlando and Orange County and Broward. Those are included. Gainesville's included too. I mean, they've got a lot of issues. But it really is across the board for all taxpayers. So I'm proud of what Blaze Ingoli is doing. I think we need somebody in that position that's going to be very aggressive at being an advocate for the taxpayers. And I think you're going to see that there's a lot of this, because you think about it, if you're elected to one of these boards, commissioners, you're there, and then especially during COVID, it's like, okay, the whole world comes to Florida, right? People move to Florida. Some people just vacationed in Florida. Some people just wanted to get away from the insanity elsewhere. So what happens is your coffers swell. So they're getting, property values are going up. People are buying homes, a lot of times sight unseen. You go back to like 2021, 22, people were buying homes without even seeing them. They'd be on the market and like an hour later it'd be sold. That was happening frequently in Florida. And so you had this rush, and then they're buying homes and the values are going up and the prices are going up. And that means more money is flowing into these coffers. And so how many of the local governments responded by doing really significant property tax reductions? Not very many did that. They basically spent the money. And there's also other things about, do they put money away? What do they have here? All this other stuff. So people deserve the truth on this, and I think that the audits that Blaze are leading, we've called it the Florida Agency for Fiscal Oversight, our FAFO audits, and I think it's something that's really, really good for the people of the state of Florida. But you got to stand with taxpayers. I mean, we're the free state of Florida because we respect taxpayers. We do that at the state level more than anywhere, but we need to do it at the local level as well. All right, thanks everybody.
Governor Ron DeSantis is wrapping up his news conference at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Regional Operations Center in Orlando, where he talked about a number of topics. He was there to highlight the results of the SAFE program. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Also, I talked about the crosswalks controversy. We do know there's a hearing going on right now in Orlando at the FDOT Administrative Building at the Turnpike Turkey Lake Plaza that Delray Beach is involved in, because they are challenging having to get rid of their Pride crosswalk there. Obviously, this has been a big conversation here in Orlando outside of the Pulse nightclub site. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we still have a lot to get to, so keep it right here live on Fox Local on this Tuesday morning. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, the National Hurricane Center has upped the chances of development for that spot you've been watching in the tropics.
Yeah, Garrett, they have. In the far eastern Atlantic, there's a tropical wave that looks like later this week will become a tropical storm. The next name on the list is Gabrielle. But rest assured, there's no signs that this will be a threat to us. It looks like it'll curve out to sea. But we don't want to completely discount it and its importance just yet. You know, it could change. If it's a little weaker, it could come farther west. But we'll go over it in detail coming up. But yes, the latest this morning is that we've got a system out there we're watching. And another system just off of our shoreline influencing our weather today, just like it did yesterday. Remember our Labor Day, we had rounds of rain and gusty winds. Today we've got more of that on the way with gusty winds. And this afternoon, a few rounds of rain, especially near the coastline. Although with the area of low pressure moving away from us, the impacts will be less in just a little bit. Right now it's 82 degrees outside in Orlando, 83 right now at New Smyrna Beach. We're going to warm up today to around 90 degrees. That happening a little bit later on in the day, closer to 3 o'clock. A lot of us stuck in the upper 80s. Notice the rain chances going up to about a 50% chance. That's a lower chance than yesterday, but a sustained chance that'll continue into the evening. So without further ado, let's look outside and see what's going on. We've got a lot of waves happening right now at Daytona Beach. Live view from the Hard Rock Hotel camp. And there's a high risk for rip currents. That's because this little low pressure system offshore is really kicking up the winds and the waves, making for dangerous surf conditions. But if there's any good news, as far as that goes, is that we're now in the super slow season between seasons for tourism at the beaches. Even the kids from up north have gone back to school now that it's after Labor Day, and the snowbirds haven't yet made their migration down to the Sunshine State. So we're kind of in that funny little lull. There's an old Jimmy Buffett song called Where the Coast is Clear. And it talks about this magical season for folks that live on the beaches where everything's a little bit more laid back and a little bit more quiet. But that said, musical deviations away, we've got a high risk for rip currents continuing through tomorrow with waves of 2 to 3 feet, so be careful out there in the waters. And here's the driving force. We've got this stalled front across South Florida, a low pressure system. This is the one that came through here yesterday, now moved offshore. It's kind of going to do a little loop-the-loop, kind of hang around just offshore of our coastline, and in doing so, keep things kind of unsettled for the next couple of days. But it is adding a feel of fall by Florida standards to the skies. The air is moving, it's windy, the clouds are moving, there are intermittent showers. It's certainly not, you know, red golden maple leaves falling in the breeze, but it's our version where at least it's not so hot and the air isn't so just stuck and stuffy and still. It's moving. Speaking of moving, we've had a couple of showers on Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar we'll keep an eye on. Future radar features a north to south push of the air today around that area of low pressure. That's going to result in some scattered showers throughout the day today and a few thunderstorms. Our overall chance for rain is about a 50-50 shot for Orlando, but a 60% chance as you go closer to the coastline, closer to that area of low pressure. And it looks like by 5 o'clock, we may have a couple of downpours to contend with on the drive home, but for the most part, if it rains where you are for a significant portion of the day today, it'll be more lucky than not. It's not as statistically likely as it was yesterday. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to catch an even bigger break in the rain chances until all that moves back into the region for the weekend, is that front, which is right now strewn across South Florida, makes its way back into Central Florida for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to top out today about 90 degrees in St. Cloud, 88 degrees in Gainesville. But let's talk about the tropics. Here's your tropical update. So in the eastern Atlantic, we've got a vigorous tropical wave, which right now is exploiting a very favorable part of the Atlantic. And it's a rare part of the Atlantic because most of the Atlantic right now is under severe wind shear. And so it's very hard for tropical systems to get going. So this little area it's found will allow it to essentially develop. And there it is, just southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands on the right-hand part of your screen, that blob of red. The National Hurricane Center says it has a 70% likely chance to develop over the next week or so. And indeed, our computer models are suggesting that this will become Tropical Storm Gabrielle maybe by the end of this week. Now, what does it do beyond then? Well, because so much of the Atlantic is under so much severe wind shear, there's a lot of wind in the upper levels of the atmosphere, it's unlikely to develop much past a tropical storm strength. Now, this is one of those rare cases where one might actually kind of root for it to strengthen faster as opposed to slower, because the faster it strengthens, the more likely it is to curve away out to the open Atlantic, well east of Bermuda. But if it stays weaker, it's likely to move farther west, closer to the southeast before it makes that curve. So we cannot write it off completely just yet, but we'll watch it. All right, let's talk 7-day forecast. Highs today around 90 degrees. We're going to see this trend continuing through next week. It's a very similar forecast day to day. The only difference is that today and tomorrow, and maybe into the day Thursday, we'll have a slightly lower rain chance. Then we're back to the more likely rain chances for the weekend as that front makes its way back into our region. But this is good news for now. Everything's quiet in the tropics, but just, Garrett, I've been saying this all morning, all weekend. Don't let your guard down. This may be what's called a backloaded hurricane season, where most of the activity happens during the last third of the season. And we've seen that in recent years. Of course, we had Category 5 Hurricane Milton last year, slamming Southwest Florida in October. Before that, we had in November of 2022 Hurricane Nicole. That was in November, just before Thanksgiving, and that took out a bunch of property on the East Coast, on the Atlantic side from erosion. And of course, Ian happening just in late September, early October before that. So yeah, we can't let our guard down, sadly, in Florida, really until Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it certainly teaches you not to read too much into this lull,
Right.
that we've kind of been in a little bit.
Well, it's a 6-month hurricane season, so you're absolutely right. If you have a quiet 3 or 4 weeks, that's a blessing, but unfortunately, it's not an indication of the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll keep an eye on that. We know the Fox 35 Storm Team will do that for us as well. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us this morning.
My pleasure as always. Thank you, Garrett.
And to give you a live look right now at downtown Orlando, and I think we've already seen more sun today here in Central Florida than we did maybe all of yesterday. Pretty dreary day yesterday for our Labor Day. We are tracking some other news today as well, as we continue to try to learn more about this former Seminole High School football star who is still fighting for his life. His name is Ethan Pritchard. He's from Sanford in Seminole County. He is a freshman linebacker playing for the FSU, Florida State University football team. He was shot Sunday night while driving near Tallahassee. And again, still not a whole lot of details about what happened, but Fox 35's Marley Capper explains what we know.
Good morning. Graduated from this school or not, the community is praying very hard for Ethan Pritchard and his family. Right now, he is fighting for his life in the ECU. Thankfully, he is surrounded by family and his head coach at FSU, but it was very shocking for the players here and, of course, his teammates at FSU when they found out. Investigators say Pritchard was visiting family in Havana, about 25 minutes from Tallahassee, where FSU is, when he was shot outside of an apartment complex Sunday night. FSU head football coach Mike Norvell leading off Monday's press conference with prayers to Pritchard and his family.
Maria and I are praying for all parts of him and the journey that's ahead, but definitely you appreciate the support from everybody in the community that we feel, and just continue to be with him.
As a player, Pritchard excels on the field. The former Seminole High School football star led his teammates to the regional finals his senior year. Fox 35 News anchor Luann Sorrell's son, Preston Watson, played with Pritchard when they were both Noles.
Even if you're not in high school anymore, you still always rep your alma mater. That's still, where home is. And seeing that one of your brothers is in like a critical condition or just something so scary, like it's not a great feeling.
The sheriff's office says there's no suspect information right now, but as soon as we find out more information, we'll bring it to you live on air and online as well. For now, reporting in Seminole County, Marley Capper, Fox 35 News.
And as Marley said, we are following up on that, trying to learn some new details today, as well as that investigation continues, because no suspect information has been released or anything like that from investigators in Gadsden County. Today is also a special election day in Orange County. The polls are open there for 2 separate races. Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has those details.
Yes, this is a special election where 2 Florida legislative seats are up for grabs. State Senate District 15 is vacant after Geraldine Thompson died following complications from knee surgery. She was 76. Lavon Bracey Davis and Willie Montague are both on the ballot for the seat. Senate District 15 covers northwest Orange County, places like Oak Ridge, Pine Hills, and Winter Garden. Florida House District 40 is also up for grabs. District 40 also includes Pine Hills and College Park, to just name a few areas. This opening happened after Bracey Davis stepped down to run for the District 15 seat. Rayshawn Young, Tuan Lee, and write-in candidate Christopher Hall are all on the ballot for the District 40 House seat. Polls are open until 7 p.m. We'll keep you updated on how these results come out. Reporting in Orlando, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
We're going to take another break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back, so keep it here on Fox Local and on YouTube.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look at the Atlantic Ocean along Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera, and a beautiful view out there this morning. Great white shark sightings are becoming more frequent, though, along the East Coast. This is something that people are reporting. Fishermen specifically have reported, especially in the Northeast, but it is something that they are seeing more and kind of putting out that warning to swimmers and other folks in the waters there. As the waters continue to warm up, as more prey becomes available, this is something that is happening more, these great white sharks appearing along the East Coast. Dr. Toby Daly-Engel is a shark expert. She's from Florida Tech. She knows her stuff, and she was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about why those sightings are becoming more frequent.
Well, I know it's hard to really think about this way, but it's actually good news. It's good news for the sharks, it's good news for the environment, and it's actually good news for all the other fish.
So let's talk about what's happening in the ocean that is creating this environment that great whites are able to grow and thrive.
Well, we're seeing quite a lot of differences up, especially in the Northeast waters, due to a little bit of that climate changing. We're seeing more warmer waters going up north a little bit further, and that's making it kind of a really nice, hospitable place for sharks to be. And before, it was a little bit too chilly for them. You know, sharks get chilly too.
So the oceans, so you're saying that the oceans are getting warmer, which may not necessarily in some people's minds be a good thing, but that's actually helping the sharks to thrive?
It's not necessarily a good thing that the waters are getting warmer. However, it's a good thing that conservation measures in our country have helped these sharks to rebound. And part of it is because we've been really good at helping the pinniped population, the seals and the sea lions that normally belong in the Atlantic. We've actually seen those populations rebound. And that, of course, is a great white shark's prey. And so where you have more prey, we're going to start to see these populations, which used to be really, really depleted, start to come back. So it's really a combination of conservation success and this slightly changing environment that's making sharks move places where they haven't historically been.
So what do great whites like to eat the most? You mentioned seals. Obviously, that would be very filling, I would think, for a shark. What else do they eat?
Sharks will scavenge before they'll eat live prey because their prey has claws and spines and sometimes beaks, and they can get hurt. And sharks can live as long as people do unless they get hurt. And so sharks will be opportunistic in eating whatever prey is available that is in their normal prey profile, mostly fishes.
Interesting. We know that there are groups like OSearch that track the great whites. Is that our best way of knowing how they're doing?
There are a lot of ways of knowing how they're doing. One way is definitely tracking, like the OSearch team does. We actually have quite a few really amazing shark scientist teams. Things like the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, which are also out there gathering information on these creatures. And because sharks are so important to the environment, even though it's scary for people, it's actually a good thing that these sharks are coming back into places where they historically would have probably been pretty prevalent if it were not for human intervention.
So interesting, certainly something to keep a watch out, especially if you're headed toward the Northeast. Not as much of something that is being reported here, but something to at least be aware of and keep in mind. Meanwhile, something that we are seeing here along in our beaches and waterways, it's been a tough year for manatees. According to data showing the most manatees killed in the last 5 years, 76 manatees killed by boat strikes. Rescuers responding to the most manatee emergencies ever this year. Dr. Scott Gerhardt is the medical director of the Dolphin Research Center, and he was on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about what they are seeing when it comes to manatees.
Well, listen, we love our manatees here in Florida. You know that. Obviously, you love them so much that you work, in them and around them, and dolphins as well. Let's talk a little bit about some of the distress that manatees are seeing.
Well, so manatees obviously are subject to a lot of different problems that are caused oftentimes by man. Down here in the Keys, what we see most often are entanglements for fishing line. We have a lot of, obviously, sport fishing going on down here, and discarded fishing line is especially a problem in the animals down here. We also do see bow strikes. That is a little less common, and then we've had a few orphans, which is another problem that we see with these animals.
We're looking at video of some. Here's a baby manatee that is being loaded up and taken in for rehabilitation. Where do they often go? Where's sort of the place that they go in order to be rehabilitated and then hopefully released?
That's a great question. So there are only a handful of what we call critical care facilities here in Florida. One would be Zoo Tampa, one would be Jacksonville Zoo, and then SeaWorld, which was actually one of my former employers. They see quite a bit of, that's where actually the animals that need rehabilitation, that's where they would go from here. So it's about a 6-hour trip. If we have an animal that is in need of rehabilitation, then they would have to head to SeaWorld. So that's about a 6-hour trip.
Yeah, which, when they're hurt, that can be a long drive, as you know. So, Doc, talk to me a little bit about some of the research that you do and some of the preventative measures and how we can help.
Well, I guess the best thing, for those who don't know, Dolphin Research Center is a nonprofit here in Grassy Key, and so we rely on the public for our funding to fund our research efforts, to fund our rescue efforts. What we can do is people just need to think when they're out there on the water, observe the slow zones for manatees, and again, as I say, most of the things we see are entanglements, and it's just a very easy thing to just hold on to that tangled fishing line instead of tossing it overboard, so that it doesn't cause the damage that we see down.
Yeah, absolutely. That is great advice. If people would like to learn more about your organization, where should they go?
You can go to our website, drc.org, Dolphin Research Center, and get more information about who we are and what we do.
Yeah, and throwing out that fishing line like that can cause issues not just for manatees, but for dolphins, all kinds of sea creatures. So don't do that. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Governor Ron DeSantis was in Orlando this morning, wrapping up his news conference here about 20 minutes ago at the FDLE Orlando Regional Operations Center, and he was talking about fighting fentanyl. That's what the placard on the podium said, and he was highlighting the results of the SAFE program. That stands for State Assistance for Fentanyl Eradication. It was a program that launched back in 2023. They expanded it last year in 2024. It basically bolsters some law enforcement efforts against illegal fentanyl operations. And Governor DeSantis today in this news conference was recommending more funding for that SAFE program and talking about how it has helped in that opioid crisis, and specifically when it comes to fentanyl, which we are seeing in a lot of substances, not just even in opioid type substances. But Governor DeSantis also took a number of questions. He talked about several topics, including alligator Alcatraz. We know the judge has ordered that to shut down, and the federal government has stopped sending detainees to that facility. So he talked about alligator Alcatraz and potential replacements for that detention facility, and also talked about the ongoing Crosswalk controversy, not just in Orlando, but around the state, including Delray Beach, which is in the middle of an administrative hearing with FDOT right now over their fight to keep their Pride Crosswalk. So these are a couple of questions and answers from Governor DeSantis just moments ago in Orlando.
So on alligator Alcatraz, just understand what happened. It's running. Deportations are continuing. You had a very partisan judge that issued a ruling saying that that DHS couldn't send any more there until, whatever. So we immediately, they appealed, we're doing that. So DHS hasn't sent more, but all that stay stuff, that's happening right now. We stand ready, willing, and able to accept who DHS sends. Remember, our role at the state, we don't conduct the actual deportations. We process, stage, and then DHS takes them away. And because we've had alligator Alcatraz, you've had thousands and thousands of deportations that might not otherwise have happened because they didn't have enough room to be able to do it. So we're ultimately going to win that fight. Now, I also announced that we had demand even beyond alligator Alcatraz, and so we have this deportation depot up in Northeast Florida, Baker County, right next door to Jacksonville. So that'll be able to hold another 1,000 to 1,500. Now, one of the reasons why we did alligator Alcatraz is because that's an airport down there. And so they built the temporary facilities with federal reimbursement. I mean, I hear people say, oh, Florida is out this money. No, we spent money and we will get reimbursed. And getting illegals out, that saved you money because they are costly if they go to the medical care or all this other stuff. But we're getting reimbursed for all that stuff. So Florida will clearly benefit from a taxpayer perspective. I don't think there's any question about that, given all that's said and done. But there's the runway right there. So you go a couple thousand feet and DHS can pick them up and go. So that was why it was really attractive from an efficiency perspective. Baker County is not far from the Lake City Airport. It's just going to require loading people and driving. It's like maybe 10 minutes down the road, and then they can be flown out of Lake City. So that will happen. That will be good. We're also working because we were up in Panama City, talking with law enforcement. And, you're in the Panhandle sending to the deportation depot in North Florida. That could be 3 to 5 hours depending on where you are in the Panhandle. And so, they were like, is there a way we can get a facility that's going to be closer to us? And so we said yes. So we're actually in the process of figuring out how we can set up a Panhandle pokey, and we're going to have that in the Panhandle. And so the mission continues. And so I think like some of the report act like, oh, well, DHS isn't sending any more there, therefore, no. DHS hasn't sent us any more since that judge ruled, but this week we're applying to have that decision stayed. Here's what they did, this is so outrageous. So this is a Collier-Dade airport, and it's actually located in Collier County. Dade does run it, but it's actually in Collier. So it's kind of, we're the uninhabited part of southern Florida. And so you have that there. It's been there for decades. So we said, we had been working with the feds on all the immigration stuff. We have all these 287G. We've done more to facilitate the president's agenda on this than any other state by far. But the one thing they kept saying is, look, we don't have enough DHS facilities to stage and to process before they're sent back to their home countries. And it's not as simple as just, hey, you go, like there is a process, like they are getting due process. Now, some of these people have already had due process. They've already ordered to be removed, and yet they still haven't followed that order. So it may vary depending, but the bottom line is you do need something. So that's why they said, is there a way you can expand capacity? Well, Sheriff Lima, they've got criminals, normal criminals they've got to deal with. Like, we can't say like, oh, the local jails should just have to do this. Now, they have done it to a certain extent, but there's definitely a limit to that. Our state prisons, we have people who get convicted, go to state prison. And so we're like, okay, we'll work to do it. So we did the one at Dade Collier Airport, Alligator Alcatraz, because you have the runway right there. And it was our view, once they were there, they weren't going to escape, and then they can be flown out. And I think that has actually worked very well. And they have picked up the pace of deportations. So people sued, and they said, oh, no, you can't do that. Why? You didn't do an environmental impact statement. That's what it was. That was the crux of the suit. Now, the state, we don't have to do a federal environmental impact statement when we're doing business on our own property. Like, we don't have to do it. It's not a requirement. The federal government does have to do it when they're doing certain things, and that is law, and I think it gets abused, but it is the law. So, we didn't do it because we're not required to do it. What the judge said was, well, since you're doing this to help the feds, it really is a federal facility, and therefore they didn't do the environmental impact statement. So even if somehow we don't get a stay, DHS, they can generate an impact statement. The impact is negligible because it's all self-contained on the existing airport footprint. We're not doing sewage or any of that. They truck the waste out. They bring all this in. We obviously weren't going to do anything that was going to undercut all the stuff I've done for Everglades restoration. And so that was all buttoned up. So that's what the judge, oh, you didn't do that. The federal government is really running it, even though they're not. Therefore, they had to do it. So I do think we're going to win that fight, and I think that we'll have that. But we're also going to have deportation depot. We Panhandle, Pokey, and then we're also looking at other areas. And so I think the net of this, there's a demand to have way more than just Alligator Alcatraz. I mean, the reality is, if this judge's ruling stands, even if we continue with these other facilities, DHS will not have enough space. It will be harmful to the efforts. It'll be harmful for the state of Florida. So we're very confident that they're going to do. And DHS, I think their position is, look, if a judge tells us not to send to that facility, then we'll send them other places. And that's fine. That's their prerogative to do. But it's still being operated. We're going to, and a lot of people have been taken out of there for sure. So I would just say stay tuned on that. The mission continues. We are going to ensure that the laws are enforced and that people here are illegally, particularly those who have already been ordered to be deported. We've got 70,000 people in the state of Florida alone that have final deportation orders that haven't been executed. Obviously, Biden wasn't executing any of this stuff. So just that, we need. But you need infrastructure to do it. So I think that's all going to work out. The reality is, it's funny because, you have like a narrative when it was set up, and a lot of people in legacy media, but also on the left, oh, this is so bad. It's so bad that you have this. Then when a judge says don't send any more, they're like, oh, see, you're not accepting anymore. That's so bad that you're not getting. I'm like, which is it? Did you not want it, or do you want it? Do you want it to keep operating? So the mission continues. We'll supplant any hurdles that we do, but ultimately we're there to facilitate the mission, to help the federal government using our own facilities, using our own personnel or contract, however they end up doing it. But everything we're doing on this mission, everything we're doing is reimbursable from FEMA. So, Biden was reimbursing the hotels for housing illegal aliens in Manhattan. The Trump administration is reimbursing states for helping with the detention and processing prior to them being repatriated to their own country. And I think that's the way it should be. Yes. We will, it is momentarily. We will have an announcement on that maybe pretty soon. We may, you'll find out pretty soon, I think. I mean, we said it would, the runway we said when I announced it is basically the timeline that we'll be on. Yes.
How many protesters were arrested for using chalk on the crosswalk? I know the state is trying to make those crosswalks safer. However, they say their First Amendment rights were violated. What's your reaction to that? And also now it's up to the state attorney's office to file charges against these three.
Well, you don't have a First Amendment right to commandeer someone else's property. You have a First Amendment right to paint your own property and knock yourself out if that's what you want to do. But when you have a state crosswalk or a state road, the law in the state of Florida is now that there's not markings or that's not going to be used for those purposes. FDOT issued a memo to explain that a couple months ago. Everybody's been on notice about that. But, this is kind of an instructive civics lesson here. You do not have a right to take somebody else's property for your messaging purposes. Like, that's never been what the First Amendment has said. And, we just got to be clear on that. And I'd also say, I've approved a lot of money for a Pulse Memorial. Where is it? Why haven't they gotten that done? A lot of money has been frittered away over the years. I think I'm certainly supportive of an actual fitting memorial for people that were murdered that day. One of the most horrific mass killings in American history. Yeah, I've approved a lot of money for that over the years. But that's not for some crosswalk. That's not to do those other things that are different from state law. So look, what I will say is this: most places in Florida, 95%, and there were other things that were marking before this bill went in. We had Blue Lives Matter, which, I've been supportive of that. But, we're not going to use our roads for that, right? And so hang up a flag, do what you want on your building, your house, however you want to do it. But we're not going to be doing that on our state roadways. And I think this is the best policy. I think it's just, some of the stuff that was going on, over the last couple years, it's just, it's too much to have this. And then what will happen is, it creates safety hazards. One, people just seeing it, but then you have some people who may disagree with the message, and then they're incentivized to try to peel out or something. Now they get held, but it's just, why are we even, going down this road? So we are going to make sure that, that law is enforced in an even-handed way. I don't care what your message is. Use it by yourself. You can say it. You can project it how you want on your property. You can do all the things that we've always been able to do, but just don't use other people's property to do it. Well, yeah, look, I'm under no illusions about the state attorney from Osceola and Orange County. I think it's likely going to be political decisions. I get that. I understand that. But the reality is our role from the FDOT's perspective, the Florida Department of Transportation, is to make sure the roads remain clean. Make sure that the roads remain clear of this. We're not going to say, this community, that community can do it, but not you, not you. No, we're just going to say the roads aren't going to be used for those purposes. Now, there's Delray Beach, I think, has a hearing in Orlando today. I think Key West is tomorrow in front of FDOT. They have basically taken the position, even though the law is what it is, even though FDOT has issued guidance, that they should just be able to be a law unto themselves and do whatever they want. And look, that's not the way this system of government operates. We have elections, people get elected, they pass legislation. I, as governor, sign this into law. So not only do I have a right to make sure that it's enforced, I have a duty to do it. And I took an oath to discharge the office and to do all that. So they just decide they don't like the law. They want to do what they want to do. That just isn't going to fly. It is not going to fly. So eventually FDOT will be able to correct it in Delray and correct it in Key West. But I would note, a lot of other places had stuff, and once they were apprised of the new policy, they were like, fine. And they basically said, yeah, if that's the law, that's the law. So it's only in certain areas where you've had folks think that they shouldn't abide by it. But most of the places in Florida have understood that. And that's with messaging that, probably a lot of people in this room would be supportive of. That is not allowed either, because we're just saying that's not what the roads are for.
Governor DeSantis speaking in Orlando just a little bit ago, and he was talking about Delray Beach. That hearing this morning at the FDOT Administrative Building in Orange County. Delray Beach is fighting to try to keep their Pride crosswalk. FDOT had said they wanted it removed by tomorrow. That was kind of the state-imposed deadline. So our Fox 35's Marie Ettinger has been inside that hearing. She tells us that the judge told both parties to have final orders in by Friday. The city of Delray Beach pointed out that's past the deadline to get rid of the mural, so the state said that they would not remove the mural before those final orders on Friday. So stay tuned on that. More news to come when it comes to Delray Beach challenging this after the state had ordered cities across Florida to repaint these crosswalks, get rid of the political messaging or whatever other colors there may be, and return these crosswalks to the standard black and white. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. And we're just 2 days away from the kickoff to the NFL season. That's hard to believe. The season starts Thursday night, Dallas at Philadelphia. That game Thursday night, and then a matchup on Friday night as well, the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil. A lot of games on Sunday, of course, and a lot of excitement for that. The Bucs play the Falcons on Sunday. The Dolphins play the Colts on Sunday, and the Jags play the Panthers on Sunday. And yesterday, after practice, the Jacksonville Jags head coach Liam Cohen announced the team captains who were named after a team vote. Some of the names you probably expect to hear. We are going to hear from Liam Cohen talking about those team captains, and also still waiting to see what the status of Travis Hunter is, the first-round draft pick for the Jags. Wide receiver, cornerback, is he going to be able to play? He's been dealing with an upper body injury, so hoping for an update on that. This is Liam Cohen speaking yesterday after practice.
Nice thing is you didn't have to fudge it to get kind of what you wanted. It was pretty clear based on the votes and the ballots that these were the 6 guys that got the most. There was a ton of guys that, you could have bumped up potentially. You just don't have enough spots. You only have 6 of them, but it was cool to acknowledge the amount of people that did receive votes throughout the team. That was nice to see, especially some of the guys that maybe not have ever been voted for in the past that did receive some votes, and kind of shows that those guys are making an impact. So it wasn't hard to get to the 6 guys.
We've had Eric Armstead in practice now for a little bit. When he plays inside, he's at full capacity. What can you do for your defense?
Just the length alone is a hard thing, to deal with as a guard, especially in the pass rush, and then in the run game, when you've got a 3 tech that can play with length and kind of shut blockers out in a lot of ways, where that can help the run defense. But he can get an edge in the pass game, and when he's rushing and moving the way he's moving, he can get an edge on people inside. So the experience, a guy that's played a ton of snaps, ton of high level football, and he can be a pain, right, for some guards that are going to try to make first significant contact, and he does have a little initial wiggle, and he's got multiple moves that obviously allows him to have success. So we need a lot out of him.
Once here, going to be your first regular season game as an NFL head coach, chomping at the bit a little bit.
Yeah.
You feel that energy kind of?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was. It's been a long kind of. I guess I don't know how many months it's been since I got hired, but nothing else. Like, obviously, you've done so much work to get to this point, and then now you're into the results. Truly matter, right? And we've talked so much about the process that drives results, that's got us to this point. We can't lose sight of that process. And we used to kind of talk about process over results. Well, those results matter. So the process in which we get to the games and the way that we game plan, the way that we operate throughout the week, the way that we communicate on game day, that's the part that you're kind of anxious to see how we handle a true game, right? Like, it was great to get some of those reps in preseason and come out of it healthy, because stuff showed up that maybe if we wouldn't have played those guys that you don't typically see. So I'm glad that we did it. You're definitely anxious as a head coach to kind of get the ball kicked off and get into it. So you're really just more so anxious and excited to see how the guys go out and play, right? Like, you want to see perfect football, but we all know it's football. It's not perfect, right? It's an imperfect game, and you're striving for perfection, which is probably the chase, obviously. But we're all excited. I'm excited to kind of get in that stadium and see how much we can pack it.
What is your relationship with Dave Canales, and knowing, of course, you would be facing the Panthers week 1 since May, but knowing that he was just a first-year head coach, and because you succeeded him in Tampa, did you pick his brain at all, perhaps between January and May?
Yeah, Dave is always, I don't know him like super well, but like when I got the Tampa job, he was, very, he was cool to just be able to reach out to, holler at. His wife was really kind to Ashley as well, and then when I got this job, we got to talk at the owners' meetings for a little while and just kind of picking his brain on some of the things that, he felt like he could improve upon as a head coach, or things that he thought went well. And, Shane Waldron was with Dave in Seattle for a number of years as well, so there's a natural communication there. I got a ton of respect for Dave. He helped so much with the bridge in Tampa. Like, their offense, there was a lot of similarities. So when you get the Tampa job, you're not starting from ground zero. And I've always appreciated the energy and confidence that he gives to his players.
Head coach Liam Cohen talking ahead of the Jags season opener coming up Sunday, 1 o'clock at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville against the Carolina Panthers. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We appreciate you joining us. We'll be back here at 2 o'clock for Florida Live, or sooner if news breaks or warrants. As we wrap up here, I will give you this live look at Daytona Beach. Have a great afternoon.
some other things. We just got rid of the business rent tax, eliminated that tax, and we've eliminated other taxes, and we're happy to do it.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. Good morning to you on this Tuesday. Governor Ron DeSantis speaking now at the FDLE Orlando Operations Center, answering some questions right now. Let's go ahead and listen in as he continues to talk. This most recent question